Hey there, welcome everyone to another episode of Stories of the Gospel, where we talk about the amazing stories in the Bible, in a way that's easy for everyone to understand. I am Maggie. Today, we're diving into the Gospel of John. We have a very special guest with us who knows all about it. Welcome, Leonard. Let's jump right into it.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I love talking about the Gospel of John. It's such a beautiful and different take on Jesus' life.
Awesome. So, let's start with the basics. For our friends at home, what exactly is the Gospel of John about?
The Gospel of John is one of the 4 Gospels in the New Testament, but it's really unique. You know how Matthew, Mark, and Luke tell the story of Jesus in a pretty similar way, right? They all focus a lot on what Jesus did, like his miracles, teachings, and how he helped people.
Right, they're like action-packed stories of Jesus' life.
Exactly. But John's different. He's more focused on who Jesus is. John wants us to really understand that Jesus isn't just a teacher or a miracle worker, he's the Son of God, and in fact, he is God.
Wow, that sounds deep. So, if someone's reading John, what makes it stand out compared to the others?
One of the big differences is how John starts. You know how the other Gospels begin with either Jesus being born, or John the Baptist, or Jesus getting baptized?
Yep, like they start at the beginning of his life.
Right. But John's Gospel doesn't start like that. Instead, John begins with, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." It's like he's saying, hold on, Jesus was around way before he was born on earth. He wants us to know that Jesus is eternal, that he was always there with God, and in fact, he is God.
So John is really making sure we know Jesus is special, right from the get-go?
Exactly. It's like John wants to tell us, before we talk about anything else, you need to know who Jesus really is. The other Gospels do tell us Jesus is the Son of God, but John puts a big spotlight on it. He's really focused on the divine side of Jesus.
That's awesome. But what about the stories? Does John tell us different stories from the others?
Yes, he does. For example, John has some stories that you won't find in the other Gospels. One of the coolest ones is when Jesus turns water into wine at a wedding. It's his first miracle, and it shows how Jesus cared about regular people, even at something like a party. And this miracle was important because it wasn't just about helping out at a wedding. It was a sign that Jesus was bringing something new, like how water turned into wine, Jesus was bringing new life to the world.
Oh wow, that's such a cool way to explain it. So, it's more than just a miracle, it has a deeper meaning.
Exactly. And there are other stories, like when Jesus meets a woman at a well in Samaria. He talks to her in a really kind and personal way, even though back then, most people wouldn't have even given her the time of day. Jesus showed that his love and message were for everyone, no matter who you are or where you come from.
That's really powerful. So, what are some other big things that John focuses on?
One of the biggest things in John's Gospel is the "I am" statements. These are super important. Jesus says things like, "I am the bread of life, I am the light of the world, and I am the good shepherd." Each of these tells us something about who Jesus is and what he came to do.
Oh, so it's like he's telling us who he is with each statement?
Yes. And the most amazing one is when he says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." John is showing us that Jesus is not just one way to know God, he is the way. If you want to know God, you have to know Jesus.
That's a huge part of what makes the Gospel of John so special, huh?
Totally. John really focuses on belief. He wants us to know that if we believe in Jesus, we can have eternal life. He says that over and over, like in John 3 verse 16, "For God so loved the world, that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life." That's probably the most famous verse in the Bible, and it's all about God's love for us.
So, would you say that John's Gospel is more about faith than just telling what happened?
Yes, definitely. John is less focused on just giving us the facts of what Jesus did and more about helping us understand why it all matters. He's kind of like a storyteller who's saying, here's what happened, but let me show you the deeper meaning behind it. Every miracle, every conversation, it's all pointing back to the fact that Jesus is God, and he came to save us.
So cool. But before we wrap up, let's talk about the ending. How does John's Gospel finish?
Oh, the ending is beautiful. After Jesus dies and rises again, he appears to his disciples. There's this really touching moment where Jesus talks to Peter. Remember, Peter had denied Jesus 3 times before he was crucified. But instead of being mad, Jesus forgives Peter and asks him to take care of his followers. It's such a moment of love and second chances.
That's incredible. So, the Gospel of John is really about who Jesus is, his love for everyone, and how believing in him changes everything?
That's exactly right. John's Gospel is all about showing us that Jesus is more than just a good teacher, he's the Son of God, and through him, we can have eternal life. It's deep, but at the same time, it's such a simple message: believe in Jesus, and you'll find life.
Wow, thanks so much for explaining that. I think everyone, even the younger ones, can get something really special from the Gospel of John. It shows us that Jesus isn't just someone from the past, he's with us today and always.
Absolutely. John's Gospel helps us see just how amazing and loving Jesus is, and that's a message for everyone, no matter how young or old you are.
Well, that wraps up this episode of Stories of the Gospel. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time as we dive into more stories from the Bible. Take care, and remember, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.